Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of How to Pass Your DOT Medical Exam. In this particular exam, we're going to be talking about urine. Everybody's favorite topic. Sometimes part of the job that provides an enormous amount of humor and some frustrations too. So, the number one thing to say is that it is not a drug test. The DOT medical exam, there's a UA, right? Urine analysis involved, and you are going to be required to provide a sample. Honestly, there's no minimum amount. Literally a couple drops, I can make it work. We use a urine strip, and I can take a dropper and just run that right down the pads. And on that urine strip, each pad's a different color and it represents something different. But the big four that the DOT, the FMCSA is most concerned about is specific gravity. We'll talk about that. Blood sugar, and protein. Those are the four that are on the MCSA 5875 form. On page 3, those are things that I'm filling out. What were those results? And arguably the biggest one of them all is sugar, right? You shouldn't be spilling sugar. Sugar in your body, in your bloodstream, is toxic. And your body knows that, which is why it's constantly monitoring the amount of sugar at any given time. And it's either sending a signal to your brain that says your blood sugar is low, you need to eat, or your blood sugar is too high, and hey, pancreas, squeeze, send insulin out, and insulin grabs glucose and, like an Uber, pulls it out of your bloodstream, and then you use it either for calories or it converts to fat for future storage. But too much sugar floating around in your bloodstream is no good. And in the case of where your insulin either isn't happening, or maybe it is but it's not enough, eventually your body's going to say, we got to get this out. So one of the pathways to get it out is through your urine. That's what shows up in the cup. It shouldn't be in there. So when we look at it and we go, wow, you got some sugar spilling over here, and then that triggers the next question, which is, did you literally just eat a Snickers and drink a Mountain Dew before you came up here? Or like, what's going on? No, I had lunch about an hour ago and stuff. Okay. So doesn't mean you're full on diabetic just because of that. It could be an anomaly. Maybe the test strip was wrong. So let's retest it and see. Those test strips are super accurate and pretty reliable. But let's dip another one in, open up a completely separate bottle. Just maybe it was a bad batch, right? Just benefit of the doubt. Comes back still, sugar is a little bit high. You're like, okay, so stick your finger out. We're gonna poke your finger and use a digital monitor and find out. And anything below 200, 110, 120 is, that number's fine. It'll go up, when you eat, because initially you're eating and you're getting more calories in and more, that all has to be, broken down to single sugars, which is glucose, and then now it's in your bloodstream, and that signals your brain, hey, use it for energy or store it for later. But that if the number's up, 170, 180, 190, the DOT will let you get away with anything under 200 and still pass, but they leave it up to me. So, I'd be like, let's have you come back in 3 months, and if this is a repeat, you're going to need to go see your doc, because maybe you're pre-diabetic. Maybe you need to get on some metformin, not just run straight to insulin, but you probably need a fasting blood glucose test to find out what's going on with sugar. Now, if you have, if your sugar dives, you can pass out, hypoglycemia, but you can also have hyperglycemia, which can be very dangerous too. And I've seen some crazy numbers. The particular blood glucose stick thing that I had, I think the ceiling I think was 600. Honestly, if you're in the 300, 400 range, you probably need to go to the hospital. But I literally had one time. It just zeroed out because it couldn't read that high. Just it gave up. And this guy walked in. Walked up the stairs, walked in to get his exam, and you're like, how are you alive? Like, this is impossible. But nobody knows, right? It's one of those things that if you don't know, you don't know. And if it's not affecting you, if it's not making you pass out, if it's not causing you symptoms, or at least symptoms that you're recognizing, then you don't know. And that's the whole point of the exam, is we're checking this thing, because nobody wakes up and goes, I think my blood sugar's high today, or I think I have protein in my urine today. That's why we check it. And if you try to make good choices and all the right things, get your body moving, walk around that truck. If you're sitting and you're waiting for your turn, move your feet, right? That's how your body metabolizes and all those things. But, over time, and it can happen to people who eat perfectly healthy, can be diabetic. But a lot of this is adult onset diabetes, which means you're sitting for a long period of time, you're eating truck stop food, you're not getting any exercise, and so your body, starts to lose its capability to metabolize properly, and as a result, you're starting to spill some sugar. Now, the true adult onset diabetes, the cure is change your lifestyle. Get moving, move your body, sweat, cut your calories, but the easier solution is go see your doctor. They're going to put you on something like metformin, and then you keep going and you don't actually change your lifestyle. And that's really not the good pathway, but see a lot of it. So that's good. Now, specific gravity, the best way to describe that is how hydrated or dehydrated you are. And, here in Colorado, it's a high desert in the Denver area, so it's super dry. We have very low humidity, which I love, but it's really hard, because as soon as, almost as fast as you drink in any fluids, you're using them, and then you're sweating them out, and it's just evaporating off your skin, as opposed to living in a very humid area where it's wet outside. You're sweating, you're glistening, but you're not evaporating, pulling the moisture out of your body. So it's really hard here to stay as hydrated as you could. General, this number has been changed many times over the years, but half your body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, drink 100 ounces of water. If you weigh 250, drink 125. That general daily consumption of water is good. And I would suggest don't just drink water. You need to mix some electrolytes and something in there. They make packets now and things that you can pour into water. Because remember, when you're getting rid of water, either through urine or through sweat, you're also getting rid of salts or electrolytes, minerals, vitamins, but you're not putting that in when you're just drinking water. So you're actually depleting yourself. So you need to make sure that as you're drinking water, that you're putting back in electrolytes, minerals, salt and things to, just keep a balance. That's very important for mental health. It's very important for physical health. But about a half your body weight in ounces. Again, so if you weigh 200 pounds, 100 ounces of water is just a general guideline. Personally, I hate drinking water straight. It's not what I do. But now they make flavors you can put in that are 0 calories. So it just makes it a little more palatable to do that. Protein's a big molecule. It's bigger than the filter in your kidney. So protein shouldn't be passing through. Think of if you took a tennis ball and you tried to push it through a screen door, it's not going to fit, right? Protein's bigger than the pores in your kidney. So when we see protein show up, something's either forcing that protein to, like Jim Carrey coming out of the back of the rhino, it's just forcing, it through by pressure, or maybe the filter's busted. And that's not good. Again, nobody wakes up and goes, I think I got protein in my urine today. None of these things are things you can feel necessarily. So that's why, we're checking them. And then of course, blood. I mean, that's just logical, right? Blood should not be in your urine at all. Now, if you're a woman and you're on your period, then that can happen, I'm not going to go down that road. But if you do happen to, if you're doing a female driver and you happen to see some blood in the urine, then just respectfully just say, hey, is this the time of the month? Is that the reason for the blood? Yes. Okay. And then we're not going to worry about it. But if it's like, nope, like, kidney infection, bladder infection, like what's going on here? Because if you're bleeding internally, why don't you passing out behind the wheel? That's super important. Just we're checking for those 4 things. Honestly, for me, the biggest one is sugar, because sugar is the one that when it goes bad quickly. On the road, you're out driving and you feel your blood sugar maybe getting a little bit low, and you're like, shit, maybe 10 more minutes, there's a truck stop down there, and out you go, driving a very heavy commercial vehicle. So it's super important to make sure that you're metabolizing sugar, glucose properly, or you're mitigating, whether it's through metformin or some medication or insulin, to keep you safe. That's the reason for it. So it's not a drug test. Quit calling it a drug test. It is not a drug test. You may be required to take a drug test, but that'll come from your company telling you to do that, pre-employment or the random along the way. The FMCSA is not in the business of drug testing. We do the urinalysis for, sugar, protein, blood, specific gravity, to just make sure things that you can't smell, feel internally are going properly, metabolic functioning. If you were required to do a drug test at the same time, then the drug testing rules take over as far as how the collection is, received, how much, the 45 ml minimum that has to be there for split sample, all that stuff, right? But your examiner will explain all that to you, and you can use them both for the same thing. You can dip the thing in and take the urinalysis for the blood sugar, specific gravity, protein, and then properly process the sample as well for the drug test, send it off to the lab. So they both can be done at the same time, but 9 times out of 10, the driver just comes in and their medical card's about to expire or did expire, and that's part of the exam, is to just pee in a cup, check it real quick, everything looks great, move on to the next part of the exam. So there you go. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, and smash that bell to get future notifications. We appreciate your support and trying to explain all these rules and why they are what they are, so that you can be best prepared to go in for your exam one time, pass it, and get back out on the road. Thank you so much for your support, and be safe out there.